Hi, my name is Marty Eckelberry. I'm a PhD student at Liberty University, and I'd like to talk to you about public history. What is public history? Public history is one of 300 specialties recognized by the American Historical Association. Ronald J. Greeley, in his article, Who's Public, Who's History, What is the Goal of a Public Historian, said this: more socially engaged historians consider public history a calling to help people write, create, and understand their own history. It is a program of study in hundreds of colleges in the United States and around the world. It's taught on many campuses where the diversity of these programs have helped reinvigorate the profession, both for the historian as well as the academic version of history. It's led to much more work away from the academic environment. Whereas in previous years, prior to the 1960s, many historians only found work once they've engaged and received their PhD in the academic environment, in academia. The creation of these many programs came from the PhD crisis in the 1960s and 1970s, when most historians, PhDs in history, were seeking work only in academia. But unfortunately, there were more PhDs than there were jobs available at these campuses, at these universities. This then led for those PhDs to seek work elsewhere. At that point, it created a movement of the field of history away from just academia, but into the public hemisphere, where those that had an understanding of history were taking their expertise and their knowledge to people directly in the public sphere. At this point in history, though, it's no longer considered a movement. It's normal for historians to bring their expertise, for their knowledge into the public sphere, to create an identity, to create an understanding of history for the public consumption. Not just for those in college, but for those that live in America and around the world today, outside of academia. So what is the use of public history? It can be used for public good, to point to the truth regarding past wrongs. Instead of writing books full of dry history with dates and actions of people and importance of particular events, we can look at the history and see how it applies to our plight today. Public historians take this information and provide it to people at their source, where they are, allowing people to come and find history in a way that is completely different than those that went to college and learned history. Public historians provide history. It also gives public historians an opportunity to interpret history for people, to explain the importance of particular historical events and how they apply to people today, or how an understanding of a particular event may be wrong based on public knowledge versus historical truth. Public historians can change public perception of what might have been a myth into reality by examining the facts and giving those facts to people in a way that is more of a story. The way that people understand history is in chronology, in storytelling. They want to know who, what, when, where, and why. They want to know the story. They want to be told the facts, but they want it to be in a narrative form. The reason that public myths tend to prevail is that they have the narrative, whereas history is full of dates and people. It doesn't have the storytelling. The public historian can do that. He or she can provide a story of what actually happened. The National Park Service today discusses the cause and effect of the Civil War in these battlefields. The National Park Service today discusses the cause and effect of the Civil War as you're walking through these battlefields. Whereas in the past, these were hallowed fields of valor, today we have an opportunity to discuss the causes and effect of the greatest war in American history. The cities of New York, Philadelphia, and Providence today, in collaboration between public historians and community activists and leaders, are able to discuss the past history of slavery in those cities and the effects it had on the individuals who lived there, both those that had slaves, those that were slaves, and those that advocating freeing slaves, and the effect it had on history. These are periods of history, of course, that we have tend to forgotten, that the South was where slaves were, and the North, of course, was slave-free. But that's not the way it was. The 13 colonies all had slaves at one point in their history. It's important for us to look at history and see not just what we want to know, but also what really happened. And public historians can help us do that. Popular history helps teach history through the use of popular media. Digital and television programs can teach us history in a narrative format that we might not otherwise seek out. Because of entertainment value, public history forms and digital and television media might be the way in which a person is seeking out history and understanding it in a way that they wouldn't have understood or sought it out otherwise. They're not going to go to the archives themselves. They're not going to seek a college class on a particular subject, but by it being on the internet, or it being on YouTube, or it being on a television show that they really sought to understand and seek out for entertainment value, they might actually remember it in a way that they would have never known otherwise. People might also seek out museums and archives and battlefields, historical buildings and community history projects because they're in their area, because they're near, and they're an opportunity for them to seek out understanding of their local area and understand where they came from. It also can lead to a relationship with the community, which can then view its past through a clearer lens, one that is not necessarily clouded by public perception or a want of a particular history, but instead through truth gained through the scholarship that comes from a public historian, someone who has sought out that information and then brought that information to the people in a popular media format. So who can be a public historian? Public historians are educators who take their knowledge and expertise to the people. They take it outside of the classroom, outside of academia, to where the people find themselves, whether it's, like I said, on the internet, on television, at a battlefield, at a museum, at the archives, or it could be just as simply as a historical building. That person could be the historian who makes sure that that building stays pertinent and important to the public perception of a place, that it's part of that history. Public history gives people an opportunity to seek out history in their own life, in their own area, to make them relevant to the past and to make the past relevant to them. They become a part of the narrative. When public history is near you, when you have a public historian who can tell you how you are a part of the past and that the past is a part of you, it makes you want to keep that perception, that part of history relevant as well. Seeking a job in public history is probably one of the better routes to be a historian in America today. If you went to the National Council on Public History's website and to seek employment, you would see that there are 149 open positions right now on their website. 102 of them are full-time, 19 are temporary positions, 16 are part-time, 5 are fellowships, 5 are compensated internships. 1 is a consulting opportunity and 1 is a seasonal opportunity. If you wanted a job in a museum or a historical society, there are 69 of those available right now. There's 47 government jobs. Archives and libraries are hiring 32 people. Historic preservation is hiring another 32. Historic site interpretations needs 21 historians. There are 19 administrative positions available. Nonprofit has 15. There are 14 other types beyond that. Digital humanities needs 11. Academia, of course, needs 10. And there's another 10 in conservation. These are all opportunities for public historians to seek out employment, but also an opportunity for public historians to have a relationship with the public. or with private enterprise. Regardless of how the historian comes in contact with the public, it allows for social engagement. This gives the historian a chance to change the public perception of events, to turn them based on historical fact, so that public myth becomes public truth. What was once an idea of a particular event that was based on a want for that, a wish that it took place in a particular way, this instead would give you an understanding of really what happened and how it happened, why it happened, who was involved, what were the results of the particular event. These interpretations are brought to the public by the public historian. The most important part of being a public historian would be this interpretation of past events and allowing for the truth to filter into popular myths. I appreciate you taking the time with me today to discuss public history, what it means to us today, what it means as a profession, and how it is a major part of history as a profession overall. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.